This is what I remember from I was 6 years old.
My name is Sanaya. I was really little and I can't remember much.
My name is Cindy. I'm from Atlanta. And this is my story. I finally accepted the fact that God gave me a story for a reason. Now it's time to share it. The crazy thing about it is, no one person knows the whole story. Everybody has bits and pieces. No one knows the story in its entirety. Here's my story, my full story in its entirety. And just to note, like, me telling the story is not meant to frame anyone or to say anything bad about anyone's character. But these are real events that happened to me, and I just want to share what happened. Okay, I never know where to start, so I'm going to go back, but I'm not going to go too far back to high school. I met my ex-husband in high school. He was on the football team. I was a dancer. So we met during one of the games, and a friend of ours actually hooked us up. He was my sweet 16, and we were the best of friends. We did everything together. We went everywhere together, and we even had mutual friends. In high school, we got pregnant with my oldest daughter, Krista, at the age of 18. So we had Krista, and then we went off to college in Tennessee. We got married young. We were about 22 years old when we got married in Tennessee with my daughter, Krista, and we began a life up there. He played football, so we had family housing. We stayed on campus. While I was in Tennessee, I made a really close friend, and she got me involved in church, and I ended up giving my life to Christ. My time there was actually made better because I met her and because of the things that she'd shown me while I was there. So I started to go to a great church. It was really family oriented. We started our new life in Tennessee, and that was pretty much it. We came back home to Georgia, I believe it was 2006. Started our life down here. We had Kamari and Sanaya when we got back here. And I believe things kind of took a turn when my ex lost football. Tore his ACL, had to take a change in situations with his career path, had to pretty much give up football. I believe that he still could have, practiced and played. I was always there to support and, help him to just get back out there, but it never ended up happening, and he ended up stepping into the real world, getting a real job. To be honest, I actually think football kind of institutionalizes a lot of guys because it puts them in a different kind of mindset. They're used to just getting everything handed to them and not used to really working for it. So it was a very hard adjustment for him, just getting back into the real world, just working, just getting into the swing of things. It was hard to adjust from the football life. Long story short, we ended up living out here in Atlanta for a few years. Things started to take turns and just change. I do believe a lot of that was an account to the fact that he lost football and couldn't really find his identity, or his identity was found in football. And so it was just a hard adjustment. Things went from bad to worse. Things got violent. Things got crazy. I actually ended up going to jail the day before I filed for my divorce. So that's how crazy things had gotten. So I filed for my divorce in 2008, and we were divorced 2008, court ordered, and yeah, that was it. After my divorce in 2008, I was doing okay for myself. I had a good job. I was in sales, making a decent amount of money, and me and the girls lived in Cobb County. We had a townhome up there. They were doing well in school. Their grades were good. We had a nice place, a nice home. We had 3 cats, a dog, a bunny, a ferret, fish, like we had everything. Like we just so things were going well until things took a turn with my job situation. And that's when everything started to unravel. The money that I was making at my sales job, I wasn't making anywhere else. It was hard to make that amount of money anywhere else. So I came to a point to where I needed help. I could no longer afford the living situation. Things turned when I went and I filed for food stamps. I applied for food stamps just to get some extra help in the house. And if anybody knows how the system works, because our original divorce was court ordered, what they do is once you're in the system, they automatically dock you. They sought him for child support. And because I never asked him to pay anything, they got him for back pay and began to garnish his paychecks, began to garnish his income tax. It was bad. And, I promised, I even told him, like, there was nothing I could do. Once I filed for food stamps, that was it. And so there was really nothing I could do at the time. And he was very upset about that. Very upset about that. So upset that I remember, I remember a few threats. I just remember those threats, but I honestly knew that there was nothing at the time that I could do about it. So, long story short, he was very upset that he was now paying child support, but being forced to pay it. And to be honest, now that I've learned a lot about the system, and I'm actually paying child support currently, I wouldn't recommend putting anybody on child support. I wouldn't recommend forcing anybody to take care of their children. Like, it should be something that they want to do from their own hearts. And whenever you force somebody into doing something, you create a bad situation for both people. And that's just period. And that's from my experience. Side note. It wasn't a lot of conversing at the time. It would be, you come and get the girls, and I see you, I speak, I say, hey, that would pretty much be it. At the time, I'm no longer working my sales job, and so I ended up having to take a job at night doing promotions. I started doing promotions for a company called United, just a few hours a night, a couple nights a week. The day in question, my oldest daughter was 10, my middle daughter was 6, and my baby was 5 at the time. I'd have a close friend of mine come over and watch them while I went to do these promos. And most of the time it was fine. I just liked it to be a place to where the girls were comfortable. They were in their own bed. They were in their own homes. And I would just go out and come back. They would never even know pretty much because they'd be asleep. So where I went wrong is one night leaving the girls home alone. I left them at home, and my ex was aware of this. So let me back up too, because a week before the night in question, I saw my ex driving past my home suspiciously. I lived in Cobb County. He lived in Clayton. So there was no reason for him to be just driving past my home without, coming to see the girls, or without letting me know, or just, there was just no reason for him to be in the area at all. I saw him the day before the night in question. The next night, I got a call maybe about an hour after I left, and it was from my oldest daughter's phone. So I answered the phone immediately. I said, hi, is there anything wrong? Anything, everything okay? And it wasn't her on the phone, it was her dad. And he said, I told you that it was going to come back on you. I told you that I was going to make your life a living hell if you don't take me off this child support. I'm at the home now with the girls and the police. We're about to take them away for you leaving them.
It all started from me and my sister sitting on my mom's bed. And then all of a sudden my dad came and some cops came. And then he had my sister's phone and he gave it to, and he was calling my mom. And my mom was like, is everything okay? And he was like, no, everything's not okay. I'm taking the girls. And then we was riding back home, and we had to pack all of our stuff. And we was riding back home to my grandparents' house, and that's all I remember.
I was about 5 or 4. I was laying in the bed, watching TV. Let's see. I remember. Okay. remember the cops coming down the house, and they came in the house and told us to get all our clothes, and I remember getting the back of my dad's car. I wasn't sad because my dad said that we're gonna come back. He said we was just visiting. We were there for a long time. I miss living with my mom sometimes.
I was watching my sisters and we were all getting ready for bed because it was nighttime. And my dad called, but I had missed it, and I called him back. He came to the house with a bunch of police cars, and he was saying how he thought we were in trouble, and he was just like, him and the police were just like, come on, let's go. And I was like, where we going? I don't want to leave, you know. And I was like, what about mommy? And they just kept telling me, all sisters, come on, get in the car. And it was on a school night, and I was like, what about school? And it was just like, come on. So me and my sisters
they were gone. Everybody was gone. There was no grounds for him to keep the girls. It was court ordered through our divorce that, I was the full custodial parent and he was a non-custodial parent, and we had joint custody. But what he did was he used the charges from that night, because a police report was filed for them being home alone, and he used those charges to file a warrant for my arrest for 3 counts of child abandonment. I had to turn myself in. I had to answer to those charges for child abandonment. So while I was going back and forth to court and to jail to answer these charges, he got a lawyer and applied for a temporary modification of custody. So what this temporary modification of custody did was allow him to keep the girls until we go to court to settle this whole issue and this whole matter. So I ended up getting out. A lot of things happened after that. Long story short, they sent DFACs to my house, just all these things. But everybody was so impressed at the living situation that I had for the girls that, everything was pretty much thrown out. I went to court. I answered my charges for child abandonment. Those charges were dropped with me taking a parenting class. And, I admit, especially like looking back and just looking back over the whole situation, I do admit that, it was my mistake, and that's where I went wrong. And, a lot of us just kind of, do things before we think about them, and we're so used to our routine and our schedule that we don't really take time. So, that's where I really went wrong. And everything else that happens and everything else that followed after that is pretty much just a testimony in itself. So we end up with this back and forth war between going to court, going to jail, back and forth with the kids, back and forth with custody. It ended up being a whole long year of just craziness. We finally went to court for the final decision on the modification of our original divorce order. So he had a lawyer, and he filed for a modification of custody and support, just everything that we were ordered to do when we originally got divorced. He filed for a modification of that. So when we got to court, I'll admit I was very underprepared. I didn't take the situation as seriously as I should have. I figured I'm the mother, they're girls, they need to be with their mom, so I thought the odds were in my favor. But what I learned is that when you go to court, the odds are only in your favor when you have a lawyer. Pretty much that's it. You can be innocent, you can be guilty, you have a lawyer, and you are supported. Point blank, period. That's the way the system works. That's the way law goes, period. So I went to court, so there was nothing really pending against me. They ended up having a witness. And the crazy thing about it is the witness was my one friend that I met in Tennessee. My one friend that got me to church, that got me to give my life to Christ. It was so crazy too because my court case was in Atlanta, so that means that she had to drive 3 hours just to get down here just to testify against me. And so with her testimony, that pretty much sealed the deal. And there was nothing really that she said against me or bad about me. They just used her stature, I guess, to say, for lack of words, to make a decision on the well-being of the kids. So she worked for DFACs in Tennessee. So she used her judgment to say that she believed that the kids would be better off with their father. That was her only testimony. Her title, basically, was enough to stand. It was really nothing that they could pull on me because, I wasn't a bad person, I wasn't a bad mom. So pretty much it was her testimony and the fact that he had a lawyer that really caused this situation or this case to take a turn for the worse. So at the time of our final motion when we were in court, the judge doesn't give the orders out right away. What he says is, in about 2 to 3 weeks, you'll receive my final judgment on the case in the mail, and that'll be it pretty much. So I remember like it was yesterday. I was waiting. My mail comes to my grandmother's house, so I was checking the mail every day. Grandma, did I get anything? Grandma, did I get anything? you know, every day just waiting to see what this decision was. At this time, I still felt good about everything because there was really nothing brought against me. And I actually had brought a few things to the table myself when we were in court. So I'll never forget the day. I was at my friend's house and my grandmother called, answered the phone, and she says, "Your paperwork is here." And I'm like, "Oh, yes, finally." She said, "Would you like for me to open it and read it for you?" And I said, "Yes, please." Opened up the paperwork, and she began to read the final order that the judge had given for this case. She begins to read, and you know, it's all the legal terms. She got to the part that said, "We find that the well-being of the kids will be better with their father." When she read that part to me, I literally just remember just dropping my hand from my ear with my phone. And my friend was just staring at me. And she's like, What happened? What happened? And I'm just staring off into space with like the phone just like by my side. And so she just grabs the phone out of my hand. And I hear my grandmother. She's like really loud and hysterical. And she's like, my friend's like, "What happened? What happened?" And my grandmother is like, "Just bring her to me." And from that point on, I really don't know what happened. I feel like I kind of blacked out. I feel like I just wasn't really there. It was all surreal. It was like the world was frozen in time for that particular moment. And nothing else mattered. I was just kind of frozen there, and it just blacked out. I remember arriving at my grandmother's house. Still don't remember like how I got there. I don't remember anything. But I remember arriving at my grandmother's house, and that was it. She just gave me a hug and gave me the letter, and I just went into the room, and ended up being like a full year of like depression. Like there was a year in my life that for a whole year I don't even know what happened. I don't know where I was. I don't know what happened that year. It's like a blur to me. Like I don't even remember. All I know is that, you know, these were my daughters, and they really needed me. They were becoming of age, you know, 10, 6, and 5. And it was like my whole world was stripped away from me. I didn't know how to be without them. I didn't know how to function. I didn't know how to wake up in the morning. I didn't know how to have a schedule. I didn't know anything. Like my whole life pretty much consisted of just being with them and being there for them. So without that, I was lost. In the same sense, I was lost. I didn't know where to go or what to do. My grandma was just encouraging me. You gotta start over. You gotta start, period. So I began to just start picking up my life again. Because of that year and because of everything that happened, I got in a deeper mess than I started. I lost my home. I lost my car. I lost my job. I even got tremendously behind on my child support because I wasn't paying for like the whole year. It was a year of like nothing. So I just got behind on everything. So it was like, okay, now I got to get up and try to dig my way out of this. It wasn't that easy at all. When I started moving forward, I missed my girls so much that I wanted to be a part of their life. That whole year was just so off and on. I didn't see them as I should have. I didn't visit them like I should have. It was too hard for me to look at them and walk away, you know, knowing that they weren't going to be with me. It was too hard. It was too hard to bear. Like, I'd rather just not see them at all and just drown in my misery and my sorrow than to see them and have to leave them over and over again. Like, it was just too painful to bear. So when I finally got myself together, I just started coming around a lot more, you know, wanting to visit the girls, wanting to go to their school, just try to pick up my life and try to make it what it used to be. But it wasn't that easy. To me, it actually seemed like it had gotten worse. Once I did start coming around, there was a lot of tension from their father and his family because I hadn't been around, you know. And to be honest, I kind of feel like they may have felt like through this situation that it would force me to come around them more You know, it could have been a situation to kind of manipulate me into being a part of the family or being around them more. But it ended up just backfiring, and it ended up just pushing me away and putting me in this place of depression. So when I did start coming around, you know, everybody was bitter with me. The family was bitter with me for not being involved in my girl's life, for not being around, for not being a part. And I got a lot of resistance. There were times when I would come to see the girls and they wouldn't be available. You know, they would take them somewhere else so I couldn't see them. There were weekends when I was supposed to get them that they didn't allow them to come. So now it's like I'm trying to restart my life. I'm trying to rebuild my life, but I just keep getting hit over the head. So I wanted to give up even more. I took another angle, I took another approach, and I began to just try to be more involved in their school life, go to their school and help out. But it was so much shame that came from that, just from the judgment and the reaction I got from their teachers and the principals. You know, like, where have you been? And, you know, like, the kids have been with their dad, they live with their dad. Just all of that judgment falling upon one person, it puts on shame. It puts on a lot of shame, and it's hard to move forward with that much shame and judgment on you. So, you know, the moment that I stepped forward and thought that I was progressing, I ended up just feeling like I was on a treadmill, feeling like I was going nowhere. I kind of didn't know what to do. I kind of was at my wit's end, and you know, this just kind of goes a little bit into my personal testimony. I didn't give up again, but I kind of just became numb and nonchalant. Like, I didn't care about what happened. I didn't care about life. You know, my life actually ended up going into a really dark place. Like, I began just smoking and just hanging out a lot all the time. I just began to do anything and everything to keep my mind off my situation. You know, there was a lot of dark nights. I was in a relationship that I should not have been in. I was in and out of town a lot. Like, I just didn't want to deal with my situation. And the only way that I could deal was to, you know, just to be high, or to run away, or to drown myself in this relationship that I should have never been in the first place. It was so much, and I was in such a dark place and so far from, you know, what I had just found. Because, mind you, I had just gotten saved when I was in Tennessee. You know, this was only a few years back. But I was so far from that light and that joy that I just found that it put me in like a miserable place. And I felt like, you know, I tried, but I can't go anywhere, so what's the point? But I remember there was this one night that I was driving on Camp Creek, and it was a really dark night. It was a full moon out, I'll never forget. And this area is in my hometown, but it's like dark, no street lights. There's a bunch of deers running around, there's a bunch of foxes. Like, it's a dark place. It's woodsy, a really woodsy place. I would have never done what I did on this night. And I remember it being a full moon, and I was looking up at the full moon, and I was so frustrated with my life and everything that I've been through that I literally just got out my car and I just screamed. I screamed as loud as I could. And then I just began to weep, and I just began to cry out to God. And, you know, I was like, God, like, I can't take anymore. Like, there's nothing I can do to fix my life. There's nothing I can do to fix the situation. You know, I lost my girls, my world. Like, I don't want them to be bitter towards me. I want to be a part of their life. I just began to scream out everything that had been aching me and everything that had been putting me in this miserable place. And I just began to cry out to God with everything in me. And I'll never forget that moment. The moment that I did that, I felt God come to me, and I felt God answer me. And I felt that God had heard my cry. And my life, my story, my situation just began to turn around. I began to just turn from some of the things that I was doing and just give up a lot of the things that I was doing. And and really seek God, because I really felt that He heard my heart. And things just started to change. Everything that I have now, I didn't even work to get it, like, on my own. Everything was given to me by God. My place is a blessing. Like, God has blessed me with a home. God has blessed me even to have my place fully furnished. Like, everything has been given to me. My car, everything has been given back. And now I'm at a place, it's been 5 years. You know, it's 2016. All of this happened in 2011. And just my trail of events since 2011 was pretty much just my testimony and everything that brought me here and brought me to this point. And I believe that now the situation has turned around to where I'm getting a second chance. It's turned around to where God has opened a window for me. And, you know, things may not look right now in the natural how I feel that they are in the spiritual, but I know God is working in my favor. I'm facing the same things that I was facing in 2011, and God has given me a second chance. So I am headed back to court with my ex, and what I am currently seeking is to do a modification of custody. If you haven't heard, my girls' stories are a part of this video. Their stories and their testimonies and their true accounts of what happened on that night are tied into everything that's going on. It's not about me, it's not about my ex, it's about being parents, being better people for these 3 gifts that God has given us. And God has really strengthened them and allowed them to be strong through the whole process. And so now I'm seeking to not do what I did the first time. I'm seeking to go to court now with a lawyer. I learned that the only way to succeed in a courtroom is to have someone on your side that represents you. So I'm seeking now at this time to have a lawyer to represent me and to do now what I should have done 5 years ago, and to really, really take back my life and to start over.
Right. I'm not gonna hide.